the simple answer is a question.
Yeah.
So what we actually are intending to do with your company or your business in Spain, if you want to be quickly billing, then the straight answer is set up yourself up as autonomous. It takes 24 to maybe 40 hours, and you can already start billing from day one, and afterwards you can set up the company. So it's not either or, it's both, right? So you can firstly start off by setting yourself up as autonomous, and then when you think that business is getting off the ground, you can move on and then set up the company. And by business setting up, getting off the ground, there are different signals that we can maybe later on talk about them. But one of them is the monthly net revenue. Basically, when you go over the threshold of 4K net per month, then you should start considering, I need to set up.
So it's about 50,000 a year net.
It's about 50,000. That's the threshold. So then it's when you think, okay, 50,000 a year is 25% the personal income tax.
Oh, right.
And the corporate tax rate is set at 25%. So that is exactly when you think, right now is when I should start thinking about that, leaving aside all the liability and which is that we all know, I assume.
So is that the first question? I was going to ask you what the first question you ask a customer when they come in.
All the time.
You say, how much do you make, or what's your?
I've more than I try to understand the business, because sometimes even if you don't reach that threshold, if I see that you've got solid business that will rapidly grow, then I might even advise you to set up the company from scratch, that you don't need to wait. Because if you have co-founders, if you've got if you're thinking of employing people from the beginning, then you might be thinking of setting up a company. Because in terms of cost, maybe it's slightly more expensive, but it pays off as time goes by, because you're limiting your liability. You're setting yourself up the basis for success, because obviously a company has got a better branding perspective than a autonomous or self-employed.
Okay. Obviously, Lexidy is a law firm, but can you give us a quick sort of non-lawyerly explanation of what the difference is between being an autonomo and having a company, especially if it's a one-person company?
Yeah, so if it's a one person, if it's a sole proprietor, then just go for autonomo. It's easy. You only need to go to the tax agency, and in one day, boom, you're autonomo. You might even, and obviously you're recording this, so you don't even need to say to register as autonomo up to 20K per year. So you can just invoice your clients, pay quarterly VAT, and then when you go over the threshold of 18K per year, then you set up as autonomo. So you can even start just testing the waters and see if the business is consistent. If you've got consistent revenue, and then set up as autonomo. But again, the difference between autonomo and companies is there are three. So taxation, what we discussed before. Corporate tax rate is 25% for the first 2 years. If you haven't done the activity before, then 15%, which is way lower than personal income tax. And the capital liability. Your liability is capped to your business assets instead of your personal assets.
Okay.
And then thirdly, brand-wise, if you've got co-founders, then it makes way more sense to set up a company.
And the cost structure, how much it costs you? How does that compare?
Okay, so the incorporation is about, in comparison to other countries in Europe, it's perhaps slightly more expensive. It's about 1,000K. It depends on where you set up a company. If it's in Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, 1,000K. Smaller cities, Malaga, maybe 600.
Okay.
But it's within that range, from 500 to 1,000K. Whereas autonomo is free.
It's free.
And then if you're even if you set up a company, or if you register as autonomo, you have to pay the social security contributions the same. So
it's the company paying it instead of you, but it's essentially it's you.
So that doesn't change. And then ongoing costs, they're mainly the same, because you have to file the VAT quarterly returns, and you probably need a gestor, which is basically a chartered accountant in Spain for that. And the only difference is that as a company, you file the corporate tax return, And as autonomous, you file the personal tax return. So it's basically the same. It doesn't really change the cost structure.
And to bring up the much hated Hacienda, are you under more or less scrutiny? Or is it very different at all?
100%. I think as a sole proprietor, if you're autonomous, or if you are a solo founder, same scrutiny. After 3 years, they'll start asking you for the VAT quarterly declarations just to see how you're invoicing your clients, how you're billing them, whether you're billing them correctly, especially if you've got clients overseas. I always advise you to get a chartered accountant just to make sure you're billing them with VAT, that you're charging the right VAT sometimes. So depending on your activity, it might be a bit confusing, but it doesn't really make a difference between solo founder or autonomo. Sadly, same scrutiny.
Okay. So just to summarize this sort of the basic difference is you'll pay more upfront to form a company. The running cost will be about the same, and it's useful if you make more than 50,000 a year because it will lower your tax rate.
Exactly. It's useful if you make more than 50K a year, if you're employing people, and if you've got another co-founder. Because if you've got another co-founder, it's way more efficient to have a company. You set up a shareholders agreement, a partnership agreement, and all the ownership is shared between you two. Whereas if you set up as an autonomo, it's way more difficult to actually distinguish what is owned by you whereas what is owned by your partner. So it's
okay. And when people are choosing, I mean, we've gone over this pretty clearly, I think, but what are sort of the common mistakes? Do people make? Do you see people who've chosen poorly often? Like people jump right into a company starting a company when they actually don't have any income yet, or
I see a lot of times, and that's not. Especially because we work with a lot of tech companies. So what I see often is a group of entrepreneurs. They start together, and they all are autonomous. And then one of them, they might be drawing up the code or the IP, and then they think that the IP belongs to the company, but it actually belongs to the person who actually drew the IP. And that with artificial intelligence, that happens a lot. And then obviously, when everything goes well, then no issue. But if there is a bit of a misunderstanding, then
right. And then someone says, "Oh, but I did that, and I invented that."
And then you think, "Okay, wow, I thought that was a partnership."
Yeah.
If you've got a company, you make sure that everything is owned by the company.
And this is a sort of tangential. We're talking about doing when you talk about starting a company, that's a SAA, it's a Sociedad Anónima.
It's a SL.
SL, Sociedad Limitada.
Exactly.
So it's like in
LLC.
the United States, an LLC.
LLC.
And so, when did you form a Sociedad Anónima? Which I assume that's a bigger company.
That is a big company because that implies depositing 50K as a share capital, and when it comes to share transfer, it's free. So because the LLC and the Sociedad Limitada, there are rules regulating the transfer of shares.
Right.
So you cannot freely transfer shares, whereas if for the Sociedad Anónima, like the public company in the States, you can freely sell shares, and it's more effective. But for entrepreneurs, I would always advise Sociedad Limitada LLC.
Thank you for spending the time. I'll just wrap it up quickly with it's helpful to have a company if you're earning more than 50,000 a year. Expect to spend more to set it up, and get an accountant to tell you what to do.
Get an accountant. A corporate lawyer.
A corporate lawyer. Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much, Héctor.
Thanks to you, Jaime.